Hey guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Vibrant People podcast. Today it's just going to be me, Jake. Joe is away in Sri Lanka. It's where he lived for over 8 years. He's going to his old home, collecting some bits to bring back to his family in Cornwall. Looks like he's having an amazing time. Pretty jealous, although personally I'm currently in France with the family. We're enjoying the simple life. We've been eating good food, enjoying the sun, getting in the pool, playing, movement, games, picking cherries, picking fruit. It's been great. And it's really opened my eyes to quite a few things in my life that I want to change when I bring back. Just subtle things, and sometimes we need to change our environment to realize that we need to make those shifts, however subtle. For me, there's kind of two main things that I'm bringing back. The first one is the idea of not being a busy fool. You might have heard the term busy fool before. It's definitely something I've been aware of for myself in the past, but a busy fool would basically be someone that works, even if the work that they're doing isn't necessarily productive or necessary. So making yourself feel like it's worthwhile or feel fulfilled just by the act of doing versus actually going, you know what? 5 hours a day is enough. I've got done all the major things I need to do. So then I can go and do other things in my life versus working for another 5 hours, just kind of being unproductive, procrastinating, not doing anything really worthwhile. And as a result, sacrificing those 5 hours that could have been used for other areas of your life that are fulfilling. Now, being out here with the family, I've been spending a lot more time most of the mornings till midday. I've been out with the family, going to the boulangerie, going to the park, going to see cool stuff, whatever it is, playing outside, and then just cracking into some work midday, working for a few hours, having family dinner together, getting outside, doing some exercise, getting in the pool, hanging out with my wife, and just chilling out, chatting and reading, watching some movies as well. They've got an insane DVD collection in this house, so we've been catching up on some old films. But it's just made me realize that some of those, I've been getting in the habit of doing really, really long work sessions with nothing necessarily super productive coming out the other end that couldn't have been done in, let's say, 50% of the time. So that's one of the things that I'm bringing back. And then the other thing I'm bringing back, which is kind of linked, is what do you do with that time that you open up, that time that you give yourself permission for, even if it's just an hour or two a day? And what I've really realized being here, we're in literally the middle of nowhere, rural France. It's super quiet, very simple existence, and just the power of the simple things that you can spend your time doing and how much joy, presence, fulfillment that they bring. Cutting cherries down from a tree, climbing up a tree, collecting fruit, getting the kids to sort it out, playing around in the garden, helping Axel find bugs, just eating simple food, going to the market, all these simple things, and they bring so much pleasure. And we can get lost in this digital world that's we're comparing ourselves all the time. We're thinking we're not good enough. It's giving us, we want this, we want that. Life will be good when. And for me personally, I get the greatest fulfillment from the things that are right in front of me. The things that are free, pretty much free or very inexpensive, readily available, don't require a lavish lifestyle, a nice car, a big house, whatever else to be able to access. And that's one of the things that I'm really bringing back is living, truly trying to live in the present. Because if we're always thinking that life is going to be good or life is going to be better, I'm going to be happy when XYZ happens, we're probably going to be chasing that XYZ forever. And even if we get there one day, it's probably not going to be all it was cracked up to be. It's like buying a new car. You get in the car for a few weeks. It's really nice having those beautiful leather seats and the great big screen with sat nav on the front and your digital radio and 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, whatever it is. But after a few weeks, it wears off and it just becomes another car. So chasing those dreams, whilst is a great thing to spend your time on and you want to achieve goals, you also got to remember to enjoy everyday life in this moment, because I really feel it passes you by fast. And at 34 years of age, every year seems to go faster and faster. And I've heard from my parents and other people who are 10, 20, 30 years my senior that just gets faster every single year that passes. It continues to do so. So we want to make sure that we enjoy the present, and that's one of the things that I'm bringing back. And on a more practical level, or I guess almost a scientific evidence led level, I read a really interesting article the other day that basically showed maybe a bit of a clickbaity title, but it was basically showing that chopping wood increased testosterone in men. And it really made me think how we've become so disconnected from the world around us. We're disconnected from nature. If we live in the cities, in concrete jungles, we're disconnected from the need survival. We can walk 5 meters down the road and go to a shop and buy any food that we want. We're disconnected from effort. Our lives are very comfortable. We can drive everywhere. We sit in comfortable chairs. We sit on the sofa. We don't have that physicality as much in our lives either. And to me, the act of chopping wood really comes as no surprise that it increased testosterone in men. We've got many different things going on there. Just the pure physicality of it. If you are sedentary and you don't exercise and you don't move, then the pure physicality of chopping wood is going to be of benefit. There's the actual act. It feels manly, right? It feels masculine. It feels powerful, which I guess would increase that drive of your hormones. And it's almost an act of survival, right? The idea that we must chop this wood in order to stay warm and stay alive and stay healthy. And that's a really, really powerful thing. And kind of going back to my first point, which was about how I spend my time not being a busy fool and really relishing the simple things in life, I really want to dial in on those simple acts, whether what digging veg beds in your garden and planting vegetables, nurturing your plants, being physical, climbing trees, chopping wood, hammering things, doing very physical survival, not survival in the modern world, but I guess originally survival driven tasks can be incredibly powerful. And I think it's not only great for our bodies, our hormones, and all of that, but actually just great in terms of fulfillment as well. And I think when we're so wrapped up in a fast-paced digital world where we're comparing ourselves with everyone around us and we're constantly seeking better, 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 I think it all comes back down to those simple acts. And you hear it all the time in some of the greatest old novels, and still now people with great success in inverted commas in whatever industry and great wealth, great fame, everything else, many of them will come back to simple things and those simple, humble things that are free. Maybe it's being a famous Hollywood actor and then deciding that you're going to go off and live in the middle of a village in France and work the land, go and buy your baguette from the local boulangerie, have a coffee with friends, read your book, and keep it simple. So that's what I'm bringing back. Simple things offer to me the greatest fulfillment. Not being a busy fool, so making sure I use my time wisely, which when you have kids, we've got a third on the way, that becomes more and more important. Time is our most precious asset, and we've got to make sure it counts, otherwise it will just drift away. So today, after that extended intro, as it's just me, I wanted to answer a few questions that were proposed in our community, the Vibrant People community, recently. Some of them are quite practical, some of them are a bit deeper. I've got quite a few to get through, so I'm just going to pick maybe like 5 or 6, see where we're at in terms of time, and then we'll leave it at that. So the first question was, what are your anchors? So what are your reminders on those hard days of why you choose this healthy lifestyle? We covered this one in an earlier episode to some degree, and what we basically formulated on that episode was that the things that keep us going and keep us anchored, keep us moving forward, even on the hardest days. We have your why. So what is your reason for doing this? We have awareness, like how do you feel based on your actions, positive or negative? And we have enjoyment as well. Do we take pleasure in what we're doing? Now, with the why, I don't think the why motivates you day to day, every single day. You can't rely on it because it's future paced, it's much bigger. So the why could be, I want to be an active dad, I want to be around for my kids when they're older, I want to fulfill my true potential. All stuff that isn't necessarily tangible in the moment. So it wouldn't be something that necessarily motivates us on our hardest day. I'm not getting up and doing a workout and going, this is because I want to fulfill my greatest potential, or this is because I don't want to be sat with a stiff back on the sidelines whilst my kids are playing when I'm 50 years old, right? That's that deep primal motivation, but it's not something that motivates us on the hard days. The other two, awareness and enjoyment, I would say they are my anchors on from the best days to the hardest days. Going to the enjoyment piece, I typically love to move my body. I love to eat well. I love to get great sleep. I enjoy it in the moment. It's not always easy. There's going to be hard days. There's going to be days where I really don't feel like doing it. But I know from lots of experience that the second that you do it, you're going to feel amazing. And something I hear a lot from clients and thrown about is that you'll often regret not doing a workout, but you very rarely regret doing one because you always feel great afterwards. And I think the same goes for good food, goes for good sleep. Once you've taken that positive action, you feel great, you enjoy it. And that's a massive driver for me, which is very closely linked to awareness, which is, how do you actually feel when you make positive or less optimal choices? I know from experience, if I don't exercise for a day, okay, we can handle that. If I don't exercise for 2 days, I notice my mood is worse. I don't feel as great in my body. I don't sleep as well. I don't feel like I want to eat as well either. I can't focus as much. My output and performance at work isn't as good. I'm not as present with my kids. So for me, I know it's not just a future pacing reason, but it literally almost instantly I have consequences of not taking those positive actions because personally my baseline has become so used to the norm, which is feeling energetic, feeling focused, feeling motivated. My digestion's good, my sleep's good. So when I stray away from those norms, which is often a consequence of not taking action on those baseline habits that have allowed me to get there in the first place, then it's not something that I vibe with. It's not something that feels good to me. So I'm aware that eating poor food, getting too little sleep, missing exercise, I'm aware of how that moves me away from my baseline and into a direction that does not feel good to me. And I know that I'm not operating at my best. And we have clients that join the program and they're realistic. They're not saying they want results in a month or whatever time, but within a few days they say, Jake, Joe, like they put in the community group or drop us a DM and they're saying, I can't believe how good I feel. My energy, I feel stronger already. I'm sleeping better. Making great food choices is easier. This is within a matter of days. And you kind of start to realize that the way that you were going through your life before was suboptimal. You weren't operating at your best state, and you just put a few of these positive habits into place, your food, your training, your sleep, simple things, suddenly you start feeling elevated, you feel better, and you're moving your floor, you're moving your baseline up, and you don't want to go back to the way that you were feeling before. And this mistake that people make is that they maybe have a less optimal day, a less optimal week, they feel themselves slipping back, and then rather than just going, right, let's turn this around, they feel shameful or guilty, and then they self-sabotage and go deeper. So my anchor is when I do feel myself slipping, which will never be personally for me. I will never let that go longer than a day or two. I am highly motivated. It almost sparks motivation in me. Imagine motivation is this very dimly lit flame. I'm not using motivation very often, but when I start dipping and I have a bad night's sleep, my digestion's bad, I feel grouchy, I feel stiff, that motivation flame gets, sets alight, and it pushes me to then take action, even on the hardest days. On the really hard days, I think one thing that's important, it's not an anchor or it's not a reminder, so to speak, but it's actually realizing that what's the minimum viable action, MVA, minimal viable action that you can take to sort of tick that off on the list. Let's talk training. We've gone over this so many times on previous episodes. We've talked to, if you're a client, we've talked to you probably many times about this. Embracing that imperfect action. The hardest, busiest day, is there space for 10 minutes of movement, 15 minutes of movement? Just do a set of push-ups, a set of squats, a set of pull-ups to failure, one set. Is it perfect? Is it going to turn you into a cover model doing that every day? No, probably not. But it's a completely polarized action to doing nothing, self-sabotaging, actually going the other way because you've got that all or nothing mindset. You're actually still taking one step in the right direction. And the value of that, which is so much greater than the 10, 15 minutes itself, is that you carry on like you've never stopped. There's no guilt, there's no shame, there's no self-sabotage. You can tick that off, you can feel proud of yourself, and then you can get on with the next day and take the next positive action forward, whether it's greater than that 10 minutes of movement that you did, or whether it's the same again for a few days. Maybe it's a tough period, maybe it's a busy work project, maybe there's a lot of family commitments. That's fine. What matters is that we don't stop. That is the key. If you are fed up of stopping, then stop stopping. Okay? So that is the anchor for me. Just do something to move forward. On those hard days, you're probably still eating at some point. Just because you've had a hard day doesn't mean you need to reward yourself or feed those emotions with junk food either. You can still make positive food choices on your hardest day. I think nutrition is the one area where there is no scapegoat. If you're eating anyway, there's a good choice to be made or a better choice to be made. Same goes for sleep, right? You can, maybe there's the argument that you have to stay up late for work or whatever, but we can catch that up somewhere, right? We can go to bed that hour earlier. We don't, probably not getting much productive done in those late hours. So let's focus on the things that you can do rather than the things that you can't. And as soon as you can get the momentum moving in the right direction again, which I would argue, even if you're doing 10 minutes, it's still going in the right direction, then do it rather than seeing yourself as a failure or stopping or letting one day turn into two or two into a week or a week into a month. Change that mindset to like, how can I keep my momentum going forward? And that is as much a psychological thing as it is a physical thing. So I hope that answered that question in a roundabout way. So these next one is a bit more of a practical one. What's the best way to determine the optimal training load, ensuring to not overtrain? Great question. I would suggest that for, let's throw it out, 90%, if not 95% of people that join Vibrant People, you do not have to worry about overtraining. Most people do not have to worry about this. For the general person, the challenge is actually getting enough training volume in and actually being consistent with it versus doing too much. I would suggest that you would have to do a significant amount more than what you're already doing to actually even get close to overtraining. Now, overtraining, I've trained a lot in my life. I've had periods where I've done a lot of exercise every single day. And I don't even think I maybe knocked on the door of overtraining, but I don't ever think I was truly in an overtrained state. When you're truly overtrained, you'll find you wake up tired all the time, you've got poor digestion, you feel stressed, lots of injuries, lots of inflammation in the body, you're not improving. It is a very depressed state. Most people, if they're training less than even an hour a day, the chances of you being in an overtrained state are very, very small. Now, if we're talking about what's the optimum strength training, and you're training 2 hours a day doing strength, and you're still sore when you come back around to doing another workout, which is actually it's actually the next question, but we'll get into that in a minute. Then I wouldn't. That's not actually overtraining. That's just more not letting your body recover adequately. Overtraining is more a big accumulation of fatigue over time that starts to have like a serious physiological effect. If you're doing a few strength trains a week, you're going on a couple of runs, you're eating well, you're sleeping well, you're really not at risk of overtraining. If you are training for a triathlon and you're doing your strength training and you're not eating enough and you're getting poor sleep, then maybe you're at risk of overtraining. But if you consider professional athletes who, yeah, granted, have a much higher capacity than the average person, they are training for a long, long time every single day, right? And they're still not necessarily in an overtrained state. So our capacity is high, and it's not something I will be worried about unless you're really going for it hours and hours and hours every day, especially lots of cardio, like long slogging cardio as well. If you're doing that, potentially you're at risk, but your body is going to send you a lot of warning signals and you'll know you're in that state. So for the average client, if you're training, most of our clients will be doing 3 times 30 minutes a week, or maybe 4 times 30 minutes. You are at no risk at all of overtraining. If you are a complete novice, you might feel very fatigued and sore. That's completely normal, but you are not in an overtrained state. Which leads us on to the next question. If your Monday workout and Friday workout are the same sort of muscles or the same movements, and you're still sore from the Monday workout, is it okay to do the same exercises again on Friday? So this would be a case where a client was repeating the same workout on Friday as they were on Monday. So the same movement patterns, let's say it's push-ups and pull-ups and squats, just for the sake of argument. Not saying that this particular client was doing that or is doing that. It's completely normal for your muscles to be sore, especially in the early phases of the program. I know this client is just started, he's only in his maybe in his second week. So it's completely normal for your muscles to still be sore at these early stages. As you become more advanced, you'll find that it takes a lot to get sore. You really, if you do get sore, it'll be for maybe 24 hours, 48 hours max, and you'll be fully recovered. So this is just something that you're experiencing with a new stimulus. If you've never done strength training before, you'll find that soreness goes on much longer. Is it okay to do it on that day? If the soreness is kind of mild, like you notice something's going on, then that's actually kind of it's a good thing, right? There's going to be a lot of blood flow to the area, and it's going to be great for your recovery, getting that workout in again. If it's unbearable, I'm absolutely in agony, I can barely move, then certainly it would suggest that for your current ability level right now, your current capacity, that volume is potentially too high. And it could be an argument to go, right, let's cut down to 2 workouts a week, opposing muscle groups, and then we'll build up to getting that closer gap between repeated workouts as you build up that capacity. Like I say, it shouldn't take too much time to get to that point, maybe a few weeks, and then you can look at bringing those workouts closer and closer. But if you're still a little bit sore, absolutely fine to repeat it. The blood flow is going to be strong and it's not going to have any negative impact at all. Next one. How do you push yourself and hold yourself accountable without shaming. Being honest with yourself and self-reflective in a way that helps you raise the bar whilst accepting all the parts of yourself. Thanks for this question. This is putting me on the spot, answering such a beautiful, eloquent, and challenging question all in one. How do I push myself and hold myself accountable without shaming? Being honest with yourself and self-reflective in a way that helps you raise the bar whilst accepting all parts of yourself. Great question. So I think some of this definitely comes back to the first question about anchors. So that what is your why? That awareness, that enjoyment. Day to day, those things will keep you going. And there's obviously no shame involved in that. For me personally, I'm just trying to think of moments of maybe shame or self-criticism, the ones that are most regular for me. So personally, for me, there's two things that come to mind, gut feel. The first one is if I have a very decadent day of food and it kind of starts to feel a little bit out of control. So this isn't a scenario where I'm actively making a less optimal choice and I own it and I take responsibility. This is where maybe a choice like that then cascades into a series of poorer and poorer choices. And I start to lose the control and the responsibility of those choices. That's definitely a situation where I can feel a little shameful and a little guilty. It's definitely something I've got better at over the years. It doesn't happen that often. And when it does, I feel I can be more responsible for it and own it a little bit more and move on. But in the past, it's definitely something that was a massive challenge for me. The second is when, to be honest, it's when I spend a lot of time on social media. Wherever you are in this game, there's always going to be people that are better than you or are perceived to be better than you in some way, shape, or form. Social media, I know, is not good for my mental health at all. I do have to spend time there. It's part of my business for sure. But as a recreational tool, it very rarely motivates me. And it would actually be something that would move me towards more feelings of being subpar, shame, not doing enough, not having enough. No feelings that I feel I want to spend time dwelling on. Social media can certainly be motivational, and if you can use it that way, then I think it's a good tool to use. But for most of us, I think it is something that moves us away rather than closer to the mind state that we want to be in. And in the former, so to go into those situations, how do I push myself and hold myself accountable without going into those? With the food one, I think it's just about moving on and really just knowing deep down that feeling bad about myself, self-pitying, shaming, feeling guilty, it is not going to move me towards the direction that I want to go. So let's say you've missed a workout, you've eaten crappy food, and you wake up the next day and you just feel shit about yourself, right? That that state of mind is not going to get you back to where you want to be. What's going to get you back is taking action. So I would actually say that in those situations, I try not even to think about it. I just know what are the core behaviors that move me towards the direction that I want to go. So that would be eating great food, moving my body, and resting in some shape or form, and obviously spending time with my family, taking downtime, doing things that I love. So how can you just take those actions as soon as possible? Don't dwell on the guilt, don't dwell on the shame, which I know is easier said than done, but just recognizing that those feelings are not moving you forward in any way, shape, or form. They are moving you backwards. And if you dwell on them, the chances are that you will actually take actions that harm you more than help you. So sometimes in those situations, I like to think, right, clean slate, ASAP, take those positive actions and just move on. It's good to self-reflect and understand like maybe why you did the things that you didn't want to do or you didn't do the things that you wanted to do. Definitely a good process to do, but try and separate yourself from the negative or positive emotions and just see it for what it is. Try to understand, like, why did this happen, without any shame, without any guilt, without any emotion attached to it, and then try and put an action plan in place to figure it out. The latter part of that question, while accepting all parts of yourself. So how can you raise the bar whilst accepting all parts of yourself? I think this is really about understanding what you can control and what you can't. If you hate the color of your eyes, or the way that your lips are, or the way that your nose looks from the side, those are things that you can't really control. Yes, obviously we can get into like surgery and all those sort of things, but those are things that you can't really control. But what can you control? You can control your actions. You can control the way that you spend your day, your time, the way that you act around other people, the way that your internal monologue, the way that you treat yourself, and the way that you think. Through those actions, you can change the way that you look. You can get stronger. You can feel better. You can have more energy. So I would focus on the things that you can control, and with the things that you can't, you have to accept them, because if you don't, you're going to look back and you're going to see that as wasted time and wasted energy of not accepting the parts of yourself that are just you. And it's really difficult, like, why can't we be happy with ourselves? Why do we feel like everything's wrong all the time? Why do we look in the mirror and think, this is subpar, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not lean enough? Like, why do we feel these things? And it is a fine line between wanting to better ourselves and actually, who are we doing this for? Like, why does my nose need to be straighter? Like, who is that for? Like, what is that about? Really analyzing that. And we've all been through periods, I'm sure, in our lives of getting down on ourselves, like disliking ourselves in certain ways, being vain, being more ego driven. And we've been through periods where we're not. And I would suggest looking at those times when you don't really think about those things, like what's going on in your life? Like, how are you showing up in the world? Because if you can figure out what's fulfilling you there and what's allowing you to not even consider those things, then the actions that you're taking are probably super positive. I know I'm definitely more critical of myself when I'm not showing up in the workouts I want to show up. I'm not eating good food. I'm not getting good sleep. I'm not putting focus and productivity into the business. The business isn't working, or like whatever it's happened in the past. It's usually other external stresses or other like lack of actions or my behaviors that are then causing me to then criticize myself. So I actually believe that taking positive actions in the areas of your life can draw all that attention away from yourself and actually allow you to accept yourself, because you're doing great things that are aligned with where you want to be and the things that you want to achieve. And for some reason, for me, at least in my own experience, that can draw that attention away from self-criticism. And actually, because when you show up for yourself, you make a promise to yourself and you prove to yourself that you do what you say. And it's almost like having a friend that is going to show up for you, that is going to do the thing, that you can believe in, that you can trust. You give yourself that authority. You trust yourself and you're proud of yourself, and you know that you take action. And that is a very, very, very powerful place to be, where you have that belief in yourself. And you get that through doing the thing, through taking action, through not lying to yourself, not creating excuses, not procrastinating. So that's what I suggest. I suggest taking those actions. So I'm going to do one more. Let's see. So we've got, what are some of the specific things you notice you do or say to yourself if you get in a trap of self-sabotage or overthinking? Do you have any phrases you say to yourself or rituals you consistently do if you notice yourself getting stuck in one of those traps? What are the best practices to systematically phase out those habits and negative thinking into positive reframes and actions? And then the other option is, how do you stay in a place of gratitude for what you currently have in the present moment whilst continuing to take action to improve your life? Definitely. Let's go for the second one. I think that's a brilliant question. So, just to repeat, how do you stay in a place of gratitude for what you currently have in the present moment while continuing to take action to improve your life? This is almost an existential question. I think it's a question that we all struggle with, especially in a world, we touched on the social media thing before, in a world where we're so exposed to what's around us in the greater world. Being here in France in this tiny village, and you don't see much wealth really, or at least flamboyant wealth. There's not much innovation. Um, People are just living a simple life. People seem very happy and fulfilled. Who knows? That's just speculation on my part. But you're not surrounded by things that make you compare. And the problem, or one of the struggles or challenges of the modern age, is that we don't even have to be around that to start doing that, because we can see it all on social media, on the TV. We're surrounded by people living these successful, these are all in inverted commas, by the way, successful, adventurous, better, more worthwhile, more fulfilling, happier lives. And that can really pull us out of the gratitude that we have for the things that we already have. And the funny thing about seeing things that you perceive as being better or desirable is that it can actually stop us taking action rather than take it. We can use things like social media or the things we see around us, either for motivation, to spur us to get those things or move ourselves towards those things ourselves, or we can use it for self-pity and shame and self-sabotage, to feel bad about ourselves and actually end up moving ourselves further away, and often infecting ourselves with envy, with jealousy, with feelings of hatred towards those that have the things that we potentially desire. So the thing for me is that the second I feel myself slipping into, I want this or I'm not good enough, whatever behavior is making me feel that, which to be honest, 99 times out of 100 is being on social media, I nip it in the bud and I move on and I make myself get out of that habit loop. So for me, if I'm scrolling on my phone, I feel that behavior happening, I shut it down right away. This is not good for me. As addictive and as magnetic as it is, I try and shut that down as soon as I catch myself. And then for a number of days afterwards, I will be very, very conscious about the way that I use my phone and the way that I engage in the world. Now, I think being grateful for the things that you have is something that's always been a challenge for me. I do feel like I'm a person that always wants to do, always wants to be taking action, be super productive all the time. And sometimes it's hard to recognize what you have around you and feel grateful for it, especially if there are certain pains in your life. Maybe it's where you are physically, maybe it's somewhere in your career, in your relationships, like financially. If you have pains, it's going to be hard to be grateful for the things that you have. Whether we can ever be in a place of complete satisfaction, I'm not sure. I feel personally like I'm pretty close to it right now. I don't have a flamboyant lifestyle. I'm not mega wealthy. But what I do have is a beautiful family. Everyone's healthy. We have enough money to pay the bills and do some of the things that we want to do every single week. To me, more than that is it's attractive in many ways. Like, I think, I guess we're talking like financially here. Finances, money can open doors, right? New experiences, it can bring more pleasurable things in a way. But I think feeling that, or maybe for you, it's a leaner body or a healthier body or more muscle or whatever it is, there is a truth that they can bring you more joy, but believing that that is the sole answer to all of your problems is definitely a trap. Um, there's a saying, I think it's more to do with moving to a different country or whatever, but it's a saying like you always bring yourself. So whatever changes around you externally, and I include like a better looking body in this, definitely not a healthier body internally, but a better looking body, moving country, having more money, a new car, a new house, you are still going to bring yourself with you. And whilst those things might provide some temporary satisfaction, you still have to deal with the stuff that's going on in your head. You're still going to be there. You're still going to be with yourself. So I think for me, the best thing that you can do for gratitude, which is a bit cliche, and I've definitely fought this behavior, is really just to write it down, journaling every day. And you're probably going to write very similar things every single day, but just taking a moment of awareness to reflect on the things that are really great in your life rather than dwelling on the negatives is a very, very powerful practice. And I don't know why humans dwell so much on the negative. You only have to look at the news to see the overwhelming bias towards negative information versus positive. I don't know why we do this, but I do know that most of us do that in our lives. We will very rarely notice the good things that are happening, but we will very quickly make a very big deal of the negatives. I did it today, for example. Woke up, had an amazing sleep, had a beautiful breakfast with my family. The sun was shining. And then I got a message from a client. A couple of issues had come up and I needed to sort it out. I was feeling stressed. We needed to get some things done. Some things need to change. And it frustrated me. And I carried this negative energy throughout the whole morning, even though I'd had a great sleep, amazing food, my family was safe. We went to a beautiful park and played together, went to the boulangerie, walked around in these woods. It was a beautiful morning, but this negative piece was just eating away at me inside. And despite all this positivity around me, the negative, even though it wasn't a big deal at all, it was really a minuscule thing, it just trumped everything else. And I think we typically do this in our lives. So the act of journaling and just taking a small moment where we're not whisked away by everything that's going on to just reflect on the things that are so good around you is a powerful practice. And it's really hard to be grateful because we become complacent, right? We become used to the things that we have. Jake, 10 years ago, couldn't have even imagined the life that I have now. A beautiful, healthy family, my own home, not worrying about bills, like whatever else, right? Simple, humble things. But many, many people on this planet, millions of people, don't even have those basic things. So just recognizing that and reflecting on that is a very powerful practice. Now, how do you continue to take action to improve your life? Well, there's nothing wrong with wanting to improve your life. In fact, I would almost argue that it's human nature to want to progress and move forward and experience and elevate from where we're at. But to me, it's more of a perspective shift. We can do that in a very exciting way where we're enjoying the journey. We're doing it for the right reasons. We're doing it for ourselves. And it's not for this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, but it's merely for the adventure, the game of life, right? The joy of the experience and going through that process. Why do I want to continue to train every day, to eat healthy, to look after myself? Why do we want to elevate that when maybe someone who's in ill health would see where I'm at now as like their pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, right? Like, why would I keep going? Well, I think it all comes back to what we talked about at the start, right? Like with these, if you don't keep taking the actions, then things can trickle away, right? Like some things are permanent in life, but most things are only temporary unless we continue to take the actions to move ourselves towards those things. They can't, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't just brush your teeth once and then you're going to have great teeth for the rest of your life. It's something you need to keep doing again and again and again and again, however mundane. So, really, for me, when I'm taking those actions, trying to separate yourself from the end goal, or maybe there is an end goal, whether it's monetary, whether it's health wise, whether it's physical, like your physical appearance, whatever reason you're doing it, that goal is fine, but without the expectation that it's going to change everything in your life and solve all of your problems, because the chances are that it isn't. Will being healthier and put you in a better place for solving potential, maybe it's a relationship issue, maybe it's a career issue, financial issue. Yes, being stronger, being happier, being more energetic, feeling better in your body is surely going to put you in a more robust position, to make better decisions and solve your way out of those problems for sure. But is it going to solve the problem itself? No, that's something that you need to work through. Is it going to bring happiness itself? No, it's part of it indirectly, but it's not going to bring you true happiness. So it's about having those goals, but disconnecting, not feeling like when you get there that everything's going to be good. Because think about another time in your life where you weren't where you are now. Maybe the job that you have now, there was a point where you thought, when I get to that position, everything's going to be great. And ask yourself, is that actually true? And the answer is probably no, right? It was better and it brought you some pleasure and it's brought you a better quality of life, but it hasn't brought you to that state of like fulfillment and true happiness. So if you can see those aspirations as what they are, which is aspirations, but not connect any kind of life success, or when I get here, this will happen, this is going to be when this happens, I think that's the healthiest way of approaching that improvement in your life and actually being grateful for what you have. So I hope you enjoyed this one, guys. I've riffed off in all sorts of directions there. Would love to know in the comments what you think of this style. It's a new one for me. I was a bit apprehensive at first, to be honest, about just speaking, but here we are at 45 minutes, 47 minutes. And yeah, I've got in the flow now. So if you like this style, let me know. Joe will be back with me next Wednesday. So if you hated it, that's absolutely fine. Look after yourselves, guys. Keep taking action, and I'll see you on the next one.